everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Cinematic Trinity with me, Tulip.
Me, Michael.
And me, Kieran.
And today we're going to be answering all the important questions, being, should The Simpsons stop? Mm-hmm. And whether the downfall of this show is real, what our opinions are of it. We haven't watched it, I think, in quite a while. I'd say for the three of us, we'd sort of dipped away from it because we'd heard such bad things about it. So we've tried to go back to it and watch the most recent series that we can on Disney Plus, and just try and put our finger on what has happened to this show. So, do you want to kick us off, Michael?
To be fair, it's not like we've watched every single episode in preparation for this.
No, it would have been impossible.
We went up to the most recent series that's on Disney Plus that we could watch, which I think is season 33. Yeah, so we went up to that, watched a few episodes of that, and went back and rewatched some of our favourite episodes of the older seasons just to see how it compares and what essentially has happened. Because I remember for my childhood, really, it'd always be in the UK here anyway, Channel 4 would have The Simpsons every weekday at 6:30, so I'd always watch it there. But I feel like Channel 4 never caught up to the newer season, so I was always watching a certain period of The Simpsons, and they would always be the best things ever, and the humour and stuff. So I guess, to be fair, should we kick off with what we've watched in series 33?
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, we'll start off then with what is considered one of the worst episodes, and that is the musical pilot of season 33, which Tulip was not very keen to.
I just hate musical episodes of shows anyway. I really, really despise them. I don't know what it is, because there's a couple of musicals that I do quite like, but when it never works well. I've never watched a musical episode that has been enjoyable or funny in the least.
I feel like me and Michael have an experience of one that has gone well.
What's that?
It's from Batman,
the Brave and the Bold.
What?
The Music Meister episode of Batman, the Brave and the Bold. It's
don't say it like I'm supposed to know what you're talking about, because I don't.
Yeah, it's Neil Patrick Harris doing what Neil Patrick Harris does best, which is just be a showman, basically.
Yeah. Then in the context that works, because he's a super villain, and his ability is to basically sing and mind control people, so it turns the whole thing into a musical episode, because that's what he does to control people. But it's a very, very good good episode.
It's a very good episode.
I will have to show it to you once we've concluded.
Yeah, well,
if you haven't watched it, watch the Music Meister episode of Batman the Brave and the Bold. Yeah. For reference, me and Michael have not watched the rest of the episodes of Batman the Brave and the Bold. just only watched this one episode. So.
But no, I completely get what you mean, and I feel as well that episode highlights one of the main issues and what makes you kind of think The Simpsons should stop, and that is just the cast start getting older. And the biggest point about that episode is Marge Simpson's actress doesn't sound, her voice
not
has
as
declined.
that iconic, even though do you know what? It's not that sort of specific voice that you used to do. And I understand that they change, the voice actors change, and sometimes just little nuances come through, but I feel she's the one who's changed the most out of all the others. I feel like Homer sounds pretty much the same, and he's always sounded the same and stuff like that. So it really does stick out, I think. Yeah,
which is a shame, because Marge is such a great character in the show, and you just kind of feel they're just in terms of her voice sounding she's just done, done with everything, and it just feels it's a real strain on the voice actress doing this. So it's a bit I feel bad for her more than anything, because it's
it sounds she must it must really hurt her doing that voice. It probably doesn't, but
because in the musical episode they make a point basically, because it's basically Marge is resurrecting an old stage show they did, but they make a sort of joke or a point earlier on that Marge imagines her singing voice as someone else, so they take
who was it? Is it
Kirsten Bell from Frozen? I think it's her
name.
So right. The one who played Anna in Frozen does her singing voice in.
I don't know why I thought it was Amy Adams for a second.
No. I could see that, but no, it's not. So they do that, and every song that Marge sings is Kirsten or Kristen Bell from Frozen. So
yeah, the only part of that episode I did like is one of the songs where Marge is, everybody else is talking about basically the point is that she meets up with her old like stage gang, and she was the stage crew, whatever, and they all sort of meet up and they all sing this song about, oh yeah, do you remember when we went to this party and that party, and oh yeah, do you remember when we did this? And she was like, oh, I wasn't there for any of that.
Yeah.
Like, you had all these adventures without me. And I did feel a bit sorry for her. I feel like I can relate to that, but that was the only part of that episode that I thought any feelings about.
Yeah, no, I do get you. So,
what about you, Kieran? What did you think of that episode?
I think the fundamental thing with this season 33 of The Simpsons, for me at least, is just that it's not that funny anymore.
No, it's like, just it's not,
because we go back to like the old episodes of The Simpsons, and you could pick out kind of any from, you know, like a vast majority of the seasons, and there'll be like a couple points in the episode that will make you chuckle at the very least.
Yeah.
This one, I just remember thinking we were all like completely straight-faced.
Yeah, we were. There was absolutely no life in the moment of us watching it, was there? It was just dull. Like, it wasn't anything. It wasn't making me laugh. It wasn't making me angry. It wasn't making me like, you know, it was just nothing, which I think is the key. There's no imagination there anymore. Like, it's not even though they come up with all these, like, there's a more like crazy storylines, I think, and more maybe happens in terms of the story. It's more fast paced, I think.
Well, they don't even do because they don't even do the couch gags or like the intro anymore. It's just The Simpsons, and then it transitions into the episode. And like, even when we went back and watched the like Lady Gaga one, which we'll talk about, that was just the couch gag, and that was it. It wasn't the actual introduction, like the normal Simpsons theme tune. So they kind of like cut that back. So it's almost like you're stripping away, you know, iconic bits of the show just for the sake of making it, like, I guess, that extra 30 seconds longer for some,
which it doesn't need.
Which doesn't.
It doesn't need. No. Yeah. It does feel like they're trying to be. They're almost trying to do too much.
Yeah.
I think, because I think now I'm thinking about it, they are a lot more fast paced, I think, and there's not really everything sort of happens. There's more story to it, but in a bad way. Like, it's not just, you know, lighthearted and stupidness.
I think like it's trying to also like maybe throw too many jokes at you, because that's the problem, at least for like new Simpsons, is they try and cram so many references and try and make loads of jokes to try and, like, I guess, to appeal to like everybody, because like you get like more mainstream jokes like what's, you know, contemporary to now, as well as like making an older reference for that some people will get. So it's almost like trying a bit too hard, whereas like, because we were talking about this with like pop culture references, I feel like the older Simpsons had stuff that was contemporary at the time. I mean, obviously like the celebrities that get on there would be big stars back then, like when it was because he's one of the presidents, isn't he? Like, George Bush lives next to The Simpsons for a while. So it's like, again, at the time, they'd be like, wow, George Bush is on this. Whereas like now it's like, oh, you know, what a quirky character.
Yeah, but I feel like they maybe put too much emphasis on, like, especially like the celebrity cameo element of it. Yeah. It's like that's the whole way that they're getting people to come back and watch it. But I don't want to see that. Like, no. I don't want to see that.
Well, it's like the Lady Gaga episode, like that, where I did a TikTok basically asking what was the worst episode of The Simpsons, and someone commented saying, "Oh, I bet people are going to say it's Lisa Goes Gaga," which is the name of the episode.
It's the worst rated one on IMDb with a 4-star rating.
Yeah, so we watched that, and it's Lady Gaga is in it like a lot. It's
just her coming to Springfield, isn't it?
Yeah,
and it's just, I just don't need to see it. You know,
they go like a bit over the top. Like, you know, like not in a good way, like not in a funny way. They just make it just like a bit of a why.
Well, she's like she's like one of the primary like protagonists, because like the episode centers around like her coming to Springfield and trying to basically cheer up Lisa, because she's feeling down because she's been bullied at school. But it's like, Lisa's almost like a secondary character, because they keep cutting back to Lady Gaga just doing whatever on like her tour train. Rather than just focusing on The Simpsons. It's a bit like, what's happening here? Why are you trying to make us, like, you know, care about Lady Gaga? Like, I feel like in the older series, like when they met a celebrity, it was sort of like either a passing moment or they would have a more like substantial role in the episodes. I'd be like, when we watched the one with like Mark Hamill, in it when it was
That's just the best episode
which is a
ever.
brilliant episode.
That is
Like-
just the most hilarious thing.
Yeah, like he's in it, but he's not like a main driving force behind it. He's just like I mean, in the context of the show, he's like there at their Comic-Con basically, or what's it, Baimon Sci-Fi Con.
Yeah,
So he's like there, but they're just like, oh yeah, he's just there, and then obviously he like at the end he gets saved and everything by Homer, but it's like Mark Hamill's just there. It's not like Mark Hamill is the centerpiece of the episode and he's gonna help everyone. It's still like a very Homer centric story.
I mean, you could probably look back at some of the older episodes and think, oh, we were just watching the episode where Bart becomes a drummer.
Yeah.
Is that the same episode where it's the White Stripes?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and it's the White Stripes and it's the music video and it's doon 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 with the drums moving, and that's hilarious. But we probably I'm trying to think if we were watching that in an episode now, and it was because it's references that are happening now.
Yeah.
It's I don't want to see something about what's happening right now. Do you know what I mean? And that's why the references don't land as good. Like when I was watching, obviously those earlier episodes of The Simpsons, that was like in the 90s. So it was all 90s references that maybe we didn't get when we were first watching it. And so we're not seeing it as a reference. Whereas now it's like, oh, they're doing this because of the,
Well, they did,
they're doing that because it's the founder. Oh, they're doing the, so it's just like, it's boring.
Yeah, it was like that Sideshow Bob episode where they do Baby Shark, and that was a bit like, that felt almost a bit too like contemporary, and it's a bit like, oh Jesus Christ, what?
I think that's the thing, because like when they do these references and when they do these jokes about like modern culture and like things that happen in modern culture, they're cringy to see when people do it. It's even cringier when someone tries to replicate that in like kind of TV, like for example, like if they brought up like if Homer were to bring up like anime or something in that, I would find it incredibly cringy, because it would be like like a middle-aged person talking about anime, but from a middle-aged person's view, so it'd be even more kind of distorted and kind of strange. And it just comes off a lot more cringy than it does funny.
You're completely right.
Which I think that's the Simpsons. It is them trying too hard, because I feel like with shows like South Park, for example, like they obviously did very recently the Meghan and Harry episode, but like you could still watch that in like 5 years' time and think that's hilarious. Whereas like if you're watching stuff like that now on The Simpsons, it'd be like, that's a bit dated. Or
it was like, what were we watching? Oh my god, what was it? And it was all in lockdown. It was Glass Onion. Glass Onions, and it was like, oh, they're all talking about lockdown, they're all wearing masks, they're all doing that, obviously because the reference it was filmed in lockdown. And it was just like, I do not want to watch something where it's set in lockdown. Like I don't want to be reminded, I don't care about, I don't want to see that. And I think it's the same sort of thing. It's like it's too fresh for it to be, it's not like a reference.
And it's all weird. It's like that them trying to be timeless, isn't it? Because like it is them trying to keep up to date with modern culture, but then kind of like it hurts like how you view The Simpsons, because like, oh, why is there like Netflix and The Simpsons now? Why is there all this like modern stuff? Whereas obviously it did originate in the 90s, so it's all kind of grounded in the 90s. They didn't have like,
but I mean, we
technology.
watched that. It must have. I mean, they were obviously still doing that, because we watched that episode where Homer gets his own website. The Mr. X website, and he gets a computer and he sets it up. And that was obviously probably around the turn of when computers were coming out and the internet. So that would have been a reference to the time. But this is what I mean. We wouldn't have understood that.
No.
Because so therefore it wasn't that. It didn't hit as, oh, that's a reference to this thing that's happening right now. It was just, this is just funny.
And it's like they have that episode, to be fair, where they go to like the Apple store, isn't it? By the whatever version is in The
like
Simpsons. So it's like that's obviously a commentary on like Steve Jobs and like how much you have to pay for like Apple and stuff, because it's obviously Lisa has like a massive bill from like Apple she has to pay. She's, like, in debt.
Is it a pear, or is a pear from Disney?
An apple, I think.
So it's just like
it's an apple with a bite taken out both sides.
That's it.
Yeah. I think that is the problem. I feel like maybe if we were watching season 33 in like 10 years' time, maybe we could look on it a bit more favourably. But because it's sort of us trying to watch it now, it's a bit. It just doesn't feel right.
I think that's why it is.
It's too in your face with what they're trying to do as well. Like, like with what I said before, but also like TikTok and things like that, and people being on like their smartphones, and it's like jokes that an older person would make, so it doesn't really kind of land well with kind of our demographic.
It'd be like if Michael's mum made like a Shrek reference, it'd be like,
That's not
what are
that
you
funny.
doing?
I find that
I
quite
mean,
funny.
you know what I mean, though. It's not
Yeah.
the right person making the reference.
Yeah.
Like, do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? It just doesn't land
Some
right.
shows it works for, like, again, like your South Park and maybe even like your Family Guy, like them making contemporary references are that would work better because at least like the humour around that can be a bit more adult.
But
whereas
I
The
think
Simpsons
we
is-
expect that from
Yeah.
like Family Guy and South Park. Like if something happens, you would expect South Park. It's like, with the Meghan and Harry thing that's come out.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to watch that episode because I want to see what funny things they say about Meghan and Harry, and it's like,
Yeah.
that's why I watch it.
I guess that's
not
like-
it's just I
Yeah.
wanted to watch the episode of Simpsons, and all of a sudden it's this.
I guess that's
reference to
also like the
something.
benefit with something like South Park though, because I'm pretty sure when they do South Park, they kind of make the episodes as the weeks go by, and then they take whatever news story was big, and then they make an episode about it. Whereas like The Simpsons is probably pre-animated, however many months before
Yeah.
it releases, and then by that time it's a bit like, oh, remember this from a few months ago? So even then it's dated
Yeah.
and it doesn't feel right. So
But it's not dated enough for
No.
it to be like, oh god, yeah, do you remember? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's really
Yeah.
funny. Yeah.
like when South Park did like the election and stuff between like Trump and Hillary, like that was still funny at the time because they were doing it as it went on and made it even more like ridiculous as it went on.
I think why people like South Park as well is because they're one of the few that actually do try and, toe the line with what they can actually do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Simpsons now feels very safe.
Yeah.
It is.
It doesn't try
100%.
and, it's kind of, I'm not saying offend people, but it's trying so hard not to offend anyone.
Yeah.
But the jokes are just like, it's just like someone just gives you a bit of bread rather than, like a full meal. It's just like, well, yeah, I can eat this,
Yeah.
but it's not, it's not appetizing to me really.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I think that you are dead right with that because there's no boundaries being pushed at all.
They're just staying completely safe
is
within the
what it
bubble, and
is.
they're not really. Because, when you go back to Simpsons, say, yeah, a lot of the stuff you go, oh, yeah, there might be some jokes like that.
Yeah.
But, it's kind of when you're towing that line, and,
Yeah.
when you're keeping kind of, on that line, it's kind of where the funniest stuff happens.
Yeah.
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 You're not going to be able to please everyone.
Yeah.
Obviously, don't go way out left field. But, just
but that's
try
the
and
benefit
keep
of it's supposed to be a comedy. Like the whole
Exactly.
point. So they're allowed to say maybe a bit more than if it was, like a documentary.
Yeah,
Like,
it's-
obviously.
they
They can
not
get away
being
with it.
serious.
Yeah.
They're doing it to make a joke, and I'm not saying go out and explicitly offend people,
Yeah.
but just make it funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. It's just not funny at all. Like
No.
I think I laughed at one. What was the tree? What was the one thing that I laughed at?
It's just I can't remember the actual
No,
wording
no, I
of it.
wrote it down. It was a trans march, and it was a trans tree.
Yeah.
What was it? What did it say? That was the only funny thing that I
Yeah.
found. I can't remember what it was,
that
but it was funny.
Because even then, like, that's a good segue because that's the Treehouse of Horror we watched, and that felt weird because they tried doing like a Parasite reference in one of the sketches. Because that's that's the thing with like older episodes as well. Like the older Treehouse of Horrors that was probably the closest old Simpsons ever got to actually like parodying something and like copying it verbatim, because you'd have like they would just do a horror film for the sketch, because like the Shining sketch is like one of the best Treehouse of Horrors.
Shining.
Yeah, the Shining. Yeah, that's like one of the best that whole episode is like one of the best Treehouse of Horrors they've ever made, and that is obviously them just copying the Shining. Yeah. But like that was the closest they'd ever get. Whereas like nowadays that Parasite one can like really focused on like the message of the film without like instead of just doing something like interesting with it.
It like because it did the bit at the start where they were all kind of going into the house and it had the house, and then it just kind of went completely out of the woodwork. And
because that's probably like, this film was really popular, let's do that. It was just like,
and they didn't take they didn't take parts of the film and make it funny. They just kind of went just so much at once.
Yeah,
that is the problem. It is just so much at once. I mean, sort of, I guess like another point to probably try and compare and maybe talk about the older stuff is maybe like not one note characters, but I feel like the characters were a lot more memorable and they did better stuff with them in the older days. Because me and Tulip rewatched like a couple of Sideshow Bob episodes, because obviously he was sort of there, but like only occasionally, wasn't he? Like in the older series.
Yeah, he wasn't like all the time.
Because we watched the Cape Fear one, which is like one of the best like Sideshow Bob episodes as well. It's like one of the best.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of great episodes with Sideshow Bob in.
Yeah, because that's the thing as well. Like,
and when it's his brother as well, and they bring in. I mean, and that's funny because that's like obviously not a celebrity. Well, it is a celebrity because it's Kelsey Grammer, and then it's his brother, Sideshow Bob's brother, who's played by Kelsey Grammer, comes into the show, and it's played by.
Oh, I can't.
Oh God, what's his name?
It's the brother from Frasier.
Something Hyde. Is it something Hyde Pierce? Anyway, Niles from Frasier plays his brother, and that's funny because they're like brothers in Frasier. So that's why it works.
Sometimes I think with like the older episodes as well, it's like when you read into like you find like the references to stuff, that's what makes it funny. Like you can appreciate it more. Like I didn't realise that was I liked his brother anyway.
Yeah, because the episode is titled "A Brother from Another Series," and you were like, "Oh, I never realised."
Yeah, and it's things like that are kind of they're more subtle. It's not completely in your face. It's people who would get the reference would go, "That's quite funny."
Yeah. Somebody else telling you
can still appreciate the episode on a whole.
I'm right. It's David Hyde Pierce. I knew I was right.
Yeah.
I'm only remembering it from trying to watch like the Frasier credits. Next time we should do an episode on Frasier just so I can watch it all again.
I've never seen.
I've seen
it's
it.
Brilliant.
Episodes,
it's brilliant. Honestly, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. But it's been a while since I've watched any of them.
Because Kelsey Grammer was like absolutely brilliant as like Sideshow Bob, and he is such like a memorable villain. And then we watched like I think it was like one of the newest episodes with Sideshow Bob where they did like a Christmas time one, and it again, whether it's just like the cast getting tired, but I just didn't feel it as much from Kelsey Grammer. Like he was still good, but you could tell he's a bit like the way the jokes are in The Simpsons now is sort of affecting
that's
him.
The writing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, if you're an actor and you've been playing this part for however long, and you know that you've got to keep going because they don't want to recast you, and you're reading it and you're just like, actually, this isn't fun anymore. I don't think these lines are funny. Blah blah blah. That's going to come across it if you don't believe in what you're selling. Almost, that's not going to come across. And this is why it probably should stop. Which is the eternal question that we're trying to answer here. Should it stop? And it's just like sometimes like I kept saying to you, and then you completely like blew my theory out of the water because I could only come up with like 2 series. But I said that 3 series of a show is like the peak. So all the series that I love, but then I could only come up with like a couple where it was The In-Betweeners, Gavin and Stacey, Jam and Jerusalem. They're all 3 series, and it just works because they're all good because they put so much thought into them that they're all brilliant. All the episodes are brilliant. They're all really good. But when something's been going on for so long, you end up just rehashing old stories and going back to things which I feel like they are doing.
That is definitely a point because I feel like when we watched the episode with the grandpa where it was like the founder like parody where it's like they set up like a restaurant and then it gets taken over by Krusty and Krusty makes Krusty Burger, whereas obviously it's McDonald's in the film. Like you get that, but then it's just like they really try and like build up on Grandpa's story as well. It's like, how did he have the time to do all of this?
There's so many different backstories, hasn't he?
Because like in the original, well, I don't know why I say the original, but like in the earlier seasons, it's just he was just like this World War II veteran and he was part of like a commando squad, but he's obviously just absolutely crazy and like just chats crap, doesn't he, Grandpa? But whereas now it's like, oh, he did this and he found a treasure and he's set up a restaurant. He's it's like, what's and then I think we watched the Lady Gaga episodes, like they always try and like make the status quo again because obviously Lisa becomes the most unpopular person in school, which is like, I'm pretty sure she's not. I know she's like smart and everyone hates her for being smart, but I don't think she's like the most unpopular person in the school. But then they reset the episode because she becomes popular again. So it's like, how many more of these, like you're at the bottom of the ladder, you're at the top of the ladder, can you do with like these characters before it gets boring?
Yeah, they're just kind of rehashing like old things and it just doesn't add anything. Like it's just, like that episode is just like, well, I've seen this dynamic like 5-10 times before on the show. But done better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like we just don't like, I'm happy enough rewatching. Like I'd rather just rewatch an old episode of The Simpsons. Like they're just so classic. And you can't have a life moment or something happening or a conversation where there's not a Simpsons reference that fits it. Yeah. But you don't get that anymore. Like there's no, have we made like a reference from like the new series that we've been watching? Have we done anything like that? No. But there's always something from those older
Yeah,
series.
it's either like a reference, or you can watch like an old one you haven't seen before, and then you get like a new one, like when we got the Morty, Trinity, like that whole conversation. So it's just. Yeah, it's just that is just it. There's just something about the new seasons which just isn't funny, and it just feels wrong. Like it
just feels like they're almost like forced to keep making the show when they actually don't really want to be, or they're running out of ideas, and it's just like, why? Just leave it.
Yeah, and that's like
come up with something new.
And it's when it gives way to like ideas. Like I'm pretty sure when we were going through Disney Plus, we didn't watch it, but that was like a Futurama crossover episode. I'm like, why are they crossing over Futurama? Now, I know it's Matt Groening who made both series, but it's like, surely that's like scraping the bottom of the barrel. I mean, at least like the Family Guy Simpsons crossover was kind of like an anticipated crossover, but I feel even then, like, the episode wasn't received very well by like Family Guy fans or Simpsons fans, because they tried to again combine like the adult humor of Family Guy.
So you said Star Wars.
Did I say Star Wars?
Yeah. Did you say Star Wars?
I didn't hear Star Wars.
No.
You may have said Star Wars.
I swear to God you said Star Wars, because I was thinking, hang on a minute, people love that Star Wars episode of Family Guy, so I got really confused there.
Family Guy and Simpsons crossover.
The Family Guy Star Wars episodes are quite good.
Yeah, they are good.
Yeah,
but we're not talking about Family Guy. But yeah, like that, like I say, that crossover wasn't received very well. So again, that's like them trying to do something outside the box, but doesn't necessarily work. Which again is probably why episodes like the musical episode doesn't work, and when they try and do more out of the box things in the newer seasons, because like, how do we stay relevant? How do we stay?
I don't mind them trying things. I think it's just kind of like you say with the Family Guy one. The Family Guy has very kind of far more adult humour than the Simpsons does. Like the Simpsons is kind of like, like more kind of innuendo, like the kind of things that they put in like kids films and stuff that adults could appreciate but kids won't understand. That's more the Simpsons, whereas Family Guy is a bit more kind of in your face and full on with the ways that it approaches stuff.
Simpsons,
that's why it's on so late.
Simpsons is certainly more like nuanced with what it tries to get, and again it's
more subtle.
When you like read into
that's it. It was more subtle in those things before, and it did those jokes in more subtle ways before. And now it just kind of doesn't. It just it gives you the joke. It doesn't kind of hint at the joke. Or kind of like make you kind of think.
I feel like a lot of the older things were almost like in passing, like something that Homer would say, just like at the end of the sentence or something like that, rather than it be the whole, this 2-minute thing of, the build up to the joke, it was more.
I don't want it to be like, Big Bang Theory or anything where it's like the laughter tracks and things where they like wait for you to like, I've done a joke.
At least it gives you time in between jokes to like actually get what the story's about. Like with that Sideshow Bob episode, like the courtroom scene is very funny. Like with doesn't your tattoo say die Bart die? No, it's German for the Bart the, and then it like.
No, but that does come back though, which was quite funny in the new episode.
But again, that's like them. I don't know. It's almost like, oh, remember this?
Because it comes back in the. Is he offering like tattoo? He's there at this like carnival, isn't he?
He's signing
people with die Bart die.
Oh yeah, so, die name here die.
Yeah. So that's like, I mean, that's funny, but it's like, let me just watch the old episode again.
Yeah, I'd rather just put Cape Fear back on and watch that. I guess another like one note character, which again, this isn't like, it's because the actor died, but again, it's such a shame that you've sort of lost track, and maybe they could have recast, I don't know, it's Troy McClure and Lionel Hutz, because again,
such a shame.
Yeah, Troy McClure is brilliant. Like all of his like movies, like they're very quotable things as well. Like and just like a funny, that was like again where they would just cut away for the sake of like a joke for like a couple of minutes.
Well, it'd be like they're at school, just put it on the thing. It was brilliant.
But then also kind of served the plot as well, because it'd always be like a documentary they were watching in service of something.
I mean, it was all, isn't it, where Lisa becomes a vegetarian, and it's the where all the cows are going up like the little ramp to the abattoir. Yeah, and it's about isn't that the same episode?
It's when he puts his finger on the cow and then licks his finger and he goes, that when they're ready to graduate from Bovine University. And then they go up the ramp. That is brilliant. What is it? It's just like, because he's talking to that kid as well about like how meat's made. And it's oh, I can't remember what it is. Oh, so they go into the abattoir. It's not an abattoir to me. It's more like a killing floor where meat is processed. It's just the kid. But yeah, it's just brilliant.
Does he do the one about sand as well, or is that something completely different?
That's different, I think.
Yeah, that's just, I don't know.
There's so many. I didn't realise how many there were until you see the, hi, I'm Troy McClure, and you may remember me from such things as, you know.
Yeah.
But there's so many of them as well, just like those intro bits.
Brilliant.
And then it's just the documentaries.
Yeah.
Like, I remember he does the one about like reproduction with like the bunnies as well.
You got to tell me more.
I can't remember like the lines from it, but he does that, and that's pretty funny.
Reproduction with the bunnies.
And then Lionel Hutz as well, like, because he was voiced by the same guy, Troy McClure and Lionel Hutz, but he's just like, again, very rarely in it, but when he is, he's quite funny as like the lawyer. Because we watched the episode where it's Itchy and Scratchy get like sued by the original creator, which again, watching that, I realised, oh, it's like a thing on Disney, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like a whole commentary on like Mickey Mouse and stuff. But he was in that and he was pretty funny. It was just like them.
Well, that's where it's money down. When they say, oh, you said that you don't work on retainer or whatever. And contingency is no, money down.
Yeah,
and he
do you have
annotates the business card.
Do you have any evidence, Mr. Hutz? No, but we got lots of hearsay and conjecture. Just brilliant.
Just funny things.
But again, it's just like, that's the thing that makes the older Simpsons, like, you cherish them more, because like, oh yeah, I love it when it's like Lionel Hutz or like Troy McClure, or even like the guy with, do you remember like the one-armed guy who runs the gun shop?
Yeah, I do.
Because they like basically he's still in it, but like as a background character. But I feel like in the older episodes he actually had more of like a presence, because they did like a whole Pulp Fiction reference with him like kidnapping Chief Wiggum and someone else, I think. But they did like a whole thing with him, and he was more involved. But like now, as the show's gone on, they've obviously just relegated him to the back now. So
yeah.
But I don't know.
Should we maybe talk for a minute about what our favourite episodes are?
I honestly can't remember a lot about individual episodes and stuff, so I don't actually know what my favourite Simpsons episode is.
What's the first thing that comes into your mind if somebody says, oh, what's like a good like gag or something? What do you think of?
I've no idea for a good gag. I just remember like the first episode that always comes to my mind whenever I think of The Simpsons. No idea why. It's the one where Mort dies.
Yeah.
Because I just remember the scene where like Homer's like asking for someone to throw a t-shirt his way, and they shoot the t-shirt cannon, and he like picks something up off the floor, and then Mort just gets hit by it and just falls off the back of the stand.
Yeah.
It's just like completely just like they just kill off one of like, you know, the side cast. Like,
Why did they kill her off? Was there a reason why they had to do it?
I don't know. I don't think like there was like a voice actor thing or anything. I mean, to be fair, like it was in service of obviously giving Flanders like his own thing, wasn't it, as well? Because obviously, to be fair, they did quite a lot of the other characters like Flanders, because there was the one where obviously the hurricane like hits his house and everyone like rebuilds it, but they do a shoddy job and he just loses his mind and like everyone and has to go to therapy. Like that type of stuff's good. But yeah, no, I don't know if there was like a reason for why they actually did kill Maud off. I don't really think it's like a character that people hated and wanted to go. But shows do that, don't they? They just from time to time. I mean, they killed. I'm pretty sure Homer's mum's been killed off, or whether they brought her back, because that was a time where I think she passed away, because I think the actress might have passed away.
Yeah.
But
well, they went back to her, didn't they?
Yeah.
To see what the backstory was with that, and that was wasn't it him finding out his middle name was just J.
Yes.
Like Jay, not any, because he was like, oh, what does the J stand for? And it's just J, you know. And that was him finding out about his mum as well.
Yeah.
What about you, Michael?
What about me? There's literally loads, because I remember having like the old VHS tapes as well, because that one with Mark Hamill I think is probably one of my favourites, just because I remember like so many bits of dialogue, and like when it's Homer with the like security guard touch, when it's like, oh, don't worry, he'll be awake in half an hour, and he's like, oh, dinner's in half an hour, and knocks himself out. And then when Mark Hamill plays like the bodyguard instructor as well, I just remember like that is brilliant. And yeah, I think to be fair, just that Sideshow Bob Cape Fear episode as well, like is really good. I like it when he sings the song at the end of the episode, like at the end, that's like the climax, and the bit where he's or the episode where he like dates Selma. That's a good one.
Yeah, that is a good one. Yeah, I like that one as well. I always liked the the Mr. Plow episode. I don't know why. I always really loved that one. I think
that is like one of the best like old Simpsons episodes. It's like one of the most well known.
Yeah, it is. But I just always really liked that one. Like I'd always want to watch it. And then just like there's classics, you know, like where Homer gets really fat and he gets the moo moo. Like that is just absolute quality.
Yeah.
And when it's the monorail episode where it's you know, Marge doesn't like the monorail and they all sing that song.
Yeah.
Like, I'll put up with that song. I don't really like songs, as you know, but
people like the Japanese one as well, don't they?
Oh, Mr.
Mushy Mushy.
Mr. Sparkles.
Mr. Sparkle. Yeah. I think
it.
Homer thinks that he's Mr. Sparkle because it's fish and the
light
light bulb.
Yeah.
That just reminds me of when it was the Mark Hamill episode and it was Mark Hamill, Alf, and many more. It's just so funny.
When we were rewatching like a couple of them, I really appreciated the one where Marge is scared of flying. I found that one really funny.
I really enjoyed that one as well.
I remembered it, but all I remember is like the joke about it. She's scared of flying because her dad was a flight attendant, but then it's like also the end.
Because he's and
like,
they go on and he's wearing a little apron and stuff.
Yeah, he's like, "Don't look at me! Don't look at me!" And then also it's like, "Oh wait, there are all these other things." Like when it's them in the crop field, and then the
plane comes down shooting at them.
And she's like, "Oh, do you think it might have been this?" And she's like, "Well, I don't know." And like the whole thing with Homer being scared of her going to therapy because he just thinks
going to blame it on the husband.
Yeah, and it's just the therapist writes down husband.
Yeah,
that's like the first thing in the book.
What's the one where he has to go and write the poem and it's him, J. Jonah Jameson, or whatever his real name is?
I want poems about Spider-Man.
Yeah,
that's a good. Yeah, that's the one with Mo actually, isn't it? Yeah, that's a good one.
I like the one where Mo has that little girlfriend who's the
dwarf,
really teen. Yeah. Is she actually a dwarf though, or is she? No, I didn't know whether she was actually a dwarf or whether she was just short.
I think she's meant to be a dwarf.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Is that where he because he gets doesn't he get surgery to make himself shorter?
I don't
think
know.
so. They break up in the end.
There's definitely an episode where Mo gets surgery to have facial reconstruction because of his face, and then
I like that episode where Mo turns Moe's into like a proper restaurant, and
that's brilliant.
And he's he comes out with this. They press the button, and it's the song, and he's Uncle Mo, while you eat, and he's got the hat on, and then and it's the twins, isn't it? Go and eat the thing out of his hat. Like that's hilarious.
That's the one where Bart sells a soul as well, and that's like brilliant.
Oh, is that the same episode?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah. Uncle Mo's, I think is the restaurant name.
Yeah. And then what was I gonna say? Oh, I was just thinking of one then. Maybe we were talking about Mo.
Flaming Mo's a good one where when he steals Homer's drink, and it's like
I like the one where they're bowling, and I like the one where they're all part of that barbershop quartet.
I haven't watched that one in years, but I know which one you mean.
Baby on board. They sing that song. I know
I'll take your word for it.
I know what I mean. It's a good episode.
Mean, yeah.
Well, there you go. Kieran knows what I mean. There we go. But all of those, they've probably got like so many references in them, but they just hit different.
I was reading through my notes. Another episode we watched, which is like the most highly regarded episode, was Homer's Enemy, where it's the guy who comes to work at the nuclear
That's
power
like
plant.
the highest rated one out of it, and that is quite funny, to be fair.
That is good. I mean, it is just like just a critique on like how Homer is so successful despite the fact that he does nothing and
He's
is
been
like
in space
lazy.
and
Is that the guy that goes crazy at the end?
Yeah.
Oh, look at me, I'm Homer Simpson.
Yeah, because he doesn't do anything, yet he's done all these incredible things, which is fun. And to be fair, the one where Homer goes to space is funny because he's eating all those crisps, isn't he?
Yeah.
Because they're all floating around. What does he let out? Is it like ants? Does he let ants out? Yeah.
And I think one of them goes up to the camera, and then Kent Brockman thinks that all the ants, like they've been killed by space ants or something.
Right.
But no, that's a good one. It's also all the references to like Barney and his alcoholism is like I don't know why.
Don't cry for me, I'm already dead.
That's a good one with the film festival.
That's a brilliant.
But like those like recurring jokes of like how, because I think there's one where basically it's outlined that Homer's the reason why Barney is the way he is, because he was like studying at school and doing really good, and then Homer was like, why don't you have some beer? And then it just got Barney hooked, because I remember in the space one Barney has to go like sober to be an astronaut, and he does like really well, and then they have like non-alcoholic champagne to celebrate, and he just goes crazy again and like steals a jetpack, but the guy's like, I don't get it. He's like, I don't get it, this is alcohol free.
they are.
But that is the thing. There's so many good moments like of the old series. Like, you know, that is the thing. It's like there's so many more we can talk about compared to like the newer episodes, and we're more motivated to watch older episodes than the newer ones.
Yeah, I feel like it's been a real effort for us all to be like, oh, we should really watch some of the new episodes of The Simpsons so that we can talk about it. And it's just like, oh, I just really don't want to.
Yeah.
It's just been quite difficult to actually get through. Like, I feel like the old ones you could sit down and plausibly watch.
Yeah.
You know, quite a few in one sitting. Whereas this one, you watch one and you're like, it's only been 20 minutes.
Yeah,
Oh
exactly.
God, yeah. It is such a chore.
They feel very different. So I don't think I'm gonna.
I think like as a good segue,
Watch it.
because I mean it's like the Simpsons movie came out in 2009, and that's like arguably like in terms of animation as well, like one of the more like modern looking, and in terms of jokes, it was slightly.
I mean,
different
I
to what
quite
new-
liked the Simpsons movie.
Yeah, I really like the Simpsons movie.
Like, I know that a lot of people didn't. At the time, I don't think it was that. People weren't saying it was that good. It was sort of very average, I
I
think.
think I enjoyed it at the time. And as for animation, obviously, it
Yeah.
was a film, so it had a film's budget rather than
Yeah.
a TV budget, so that the animation is going to look better. But no, I think, you know, I think even remembering watching it at the time, I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
can appreciate it from like the view I had as a child then, and I could watch it now and appreciate a lot more of the jokes that they put
Yeah.
in.
Yeah,
But still appreciate some of the stuff that I
Yeah.
did as a child.
yeah.
So I think that's the kind of niche that they kind of developed for themselves before, and they've just kind of lost that.
Yeah, it's just
'Cause
it
it always-
must be difficult when they've been going on for so long. Like that's
Because they almost
yeah.
like, because I feel like if they did a Simpsons movie too, that just wouldn't be.
It would
As
be
good.
it would be a flop. If it
Yeah,
did
I don't think
these
there's
days.
not enough
But then
traction around it.
I mean, there's just not general interest in the Simpsons anymore, is there? Like
No.
compared to, I mean, apart from the
I
occasional.
mean, this is the thing. It's the celebrities keeping it alive.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, like that's the only thing I really think is
Yeah.
keeping it
I
alive.
feel
It's not.
that's true. I think it's either the occasional celebrity appearance or the occasional. Oh, the Simpsons predicted this. Like that's all you'll ever hear about the Simpsons is that. You know, so but yeah, I think if they would make a Simpsons movie too, it just wouldn't
I don't
do as
think
well.
it would do well. No, I don't even know what they would do it about. Like,
I don't know. It's not like the first film was very well set up in like the previous
no, it's
seasons
not
of the
really.
show.
No,
But yeah, no, I feel like it kind of almost feels like it went downhill after the film.
I
Like,
think
even,
it did.
Even if the film wasn't as good as like older seasons of The Simpsons, like that was sort of the peak, and then like the trough, like it's now the trough is happening. Like you know,
The beginning of the end.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
that is the principle. I think it should end. I just think The Simpsons should retire and not.
yeah.
Not
I think
next.
things that should just always quit while they're ahead. If you've had a good run of so many seasons and it's done really well, and even if you're at your prime, you go actually with this is it, we're going to leave it, which is probably like it's the same with like Marvel films. It's like they can't just leave it, they have to keep going and keep churning this stuff out. It's like actually if you just stopped for a bit, took a break, then you might come back with something even better.
I think. I guess you kind of hope that with the Futurama reboot they're doing.
Yeah, to me I'm kind of just like, why are they doing that? Because
No,
those
yeah.
earlier seasons of Futurama, they're just hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just love them so much.
Yeah.
Like I have real like, you know,
Like, that's brilliant.
a real love for them.
We rewatched like the first two seasons, like not and like some of the films or
the longer.
multi-part things, and yeah, it's just that is brilliant. That's like an edgier version of The Simpsons, and I feel like it made, from what I understand, it kind of went downhill towards the end of that show, but at least they ended it, Futurama, because I mean they like brought it back for like its final season, and that concluded everything. So I just, again, why they're doing a reboot, like I don't quite know.
I just don't know why they have to reboot anything. Like nobody can come up with any good ideas anymore,
No.
and it's just annoying.
No, I think that's the thing. Like with The Simpsons, I completely agree. I think it should
Yeah,
stop. It's had its time,
Yeah,
but it's not adding anything anymore.
No.
It's just kind of it's there, and it's almost kind of diminishing its reputation.
yeah, it is. Yeah,
Because I know there's things like I know I've shown you, Michael, a couple bits of both shows, but like things like Arrow and The Flash that the CW did.
yeah.
Like the first two seasons of both shows were really good, especially the second season of both. Like it went from first season being really good and I was hooked on it. The second season, I was like, this is incredible. This is like such good, like actual good TV.
yeah.
And then the third season came with both, and I watched both the third seasons, and I just thought, this is a complete like downfall from what it was
Yeah.
before. And I watched season 4 of Arrow, and it was even worse. I
Yeah.
started season 4 of Flash, I didn't finish it, and they're both on like season 9, luckily finishing now.
Yeah.
But they're just rehashing the same things. I know with the Flash, they've had like
Yeah.
of the 9 seasons, I think there's 7 speedster villains.
Yeah, it's just like, who's the villain?
And
It's
it's-
someone who's faster than the Flash.
It's like every single time it's just like, oh, so what do we do to beat this villain? Get faster?
Yeah.
And the quality in the CG is like dropped.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's things like that, like with The Simpsons, it's gone on too long. There's only so many jokes they can make, and I know there's new stuff coming out, but when the new stuff isn't funny to begin with, the jokes that you can make will get like even harder to get a kind of
Yeah.
laugh out of.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, who knows when it will ever end. It'll probably end when like one of the main voice actors dies. I imagine if it's like the
Could
person
well
who plays
be.
Marge, or if it's, you know, Dan Castellaneta or whatever his name is.
Castellanara.
because he's like 70s now,
Is
I
he?
think.
I know the person who plays
Blimey.
Marge, yeah, she's in her 70s, and then I mean Nancy
doesn't surprise
Cartwright
me.
can't be that young either.
No.
Who plays Bart?
No, because she was quite old when she was playing him to begin with. I think she was
Yeah. Because I mean, a few,
40.
well, yeah, I mean, a few voice actors have passed away as well. Because I mean, the one who played Edna Krabappel, she passed away. Because I mean, she was, I think, in the terms of the show, she was going out with Flanders, like Edna, and then they killed her off. Well, didn't kill her off, but they sort of had to write her
That was the
away.
story.
Yeah, because I think one episode just randomly ended with like a picture of her, and they acknowledged that she passed away, and that was it. But it's, again, you just you have to keep going along. Don't just like recast them, I guess. But who knows when?
But it's just like it's going to get down to like one character actually being left in the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just going to be Maggie.
Yeah.
And it's just
Yeah.
for 20 minutes, just like sucking on a little
Well,
donut.
well, Maggie is Nancy Cartwright. It's who plays Bart.
Oh no!
So yeah, end The Simpsons now. We don't need any more.
Yeah, we don't need any more, I'm sorry to say.
Yes, I know Matt
God.
Groening. You're definitely listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
He's made enough
100%
money.
he's there.
He's made enough money already.
Yeah, I'm sure he has.
Enjoy retirement.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for listening again, everybody. This has been quite a long one, although we might trim it a little bit. But yeah, I've been Tulip.
I've been Michael.
I've been Kieran.